What's going on, guys? Dom The Commish here, and for those of you who don't know, ESPN just reset, I guess, kind of reset their fantasy leagues, and so we're gonna go through, and we're basically kind of in a mock draft right now, but we're just gonna go through and look at, we'll say about the top 200-ish players, and we're just gonna, see how these rankings are and see what I'd change, because I mean, the top already, I think, is already pretty crazy. So, overall, if you guys really enjoy this video, please leave a like and subscribe on this. And at the end, we're also going to do a mock draft from pick number 1. So, we're just going to have some fun with this and discuss these rankings. So, let's start off. Jamar Chase, I have absolutely no problem being number 1. Justin Jefferson, I also don't mind being up there too. It's a PPR league. Wide receivers are king. But what I do not understand is Bijan Robinson over Jahmyr Gibbs and Saquon Barkley. Don't get me wrong. Bijan had a very, very good season. 341.7 points. Jahmyr Gibbs had 20 more fantasy points. And that comes off of 4 weeks where he was the most dominant running back in fantasy. And then Saquon Barkley just hit 2,000 yards. And once again, was one of the most dominant backs in fantasy this season. And Bijan Robinson, I get people say the hype is up there, but he's just been worse. And he's also on a worse offense overall. I think the Atlanta Falcons are still just kind of mid. And overall, I'm not taking Bijan Robinson over guys like Jahmyr Gibbs and Saquon Barkley. Puka Nacua over Amon-Ra St. Brown. I actually really like this, especially because now that Cooper Kupp's not in the scheme anymore, I feel like Puka Nacua is going to get even more targets. If he can have a fully healthy season, I think he can easily finish as the wide receiver 1. But once again, hasn't really had that healthy season yet. I want to see a full healthy season of Puka Nacua. Amon-Ra at 7. I do like that. CeeDee Lamb, Malik Neighbors, Nico Collins. I think these 3 are the next 3 wide receivers up. I really do like the 3 of them being here. I think CeeDee Lamb is starting to become underrated this year, especially with Dak as his quarterback. Malik Neighbors, once again, I think with Russell Wilson, he can easily finish as a top 5 wide receiver this year. Nico Collins, once again, with CJ Stroud, can finish really highly as a receiver. Now we get into the interesting part. Brian Thomas Jr. at the 11th overall pick. Listen, Brian Thomas Jr. was good last year. I'm not saying that he wasn't. Brian Thomas Jr. at the end of the year had an unbelievable stretch. But that was with Mac Jones forcing him the ball. And if we're putting Brian Thomas Jr. this high, then why is Ladd McConkey all the way ranked at 38? He had almost just as good of an end of the season, and he also had that massive game in the first game of the playoffs. And that's with the quarterback that's going to be starting. I don't see Brian Thomas Jr. as well as I'm not picking Brian Thomas Jr. over AJ Brown. I'm not picking him over Achane. I'm not picking him over Derrick Henry or Bucky Irving. I'm not picking him over any of these guys. Honestly, Brian Thomas Jr., I'd have in more of the range down over here where like Chris Godwin, Xavier Worthy are. That's where I'd have him. I'd have him more in like the mid-10s or mid-20s. He is definitely not worthy of a first-round pick. I don't think so. AJ Brown at 12, I'm kind of fine with. Christian McCaffrey, based on upside alone, I am completely fine with him being at number 13. I do feel like that it is a bit of it still might be a bit of a reach to take him this early. I would take him more mid-second. But once again, I mean, Saquon fell all the way to the 3rd round in the year that he had a really good year with the Giants. So I'd be fine taking him here. Devon Achane, I'd take him over Christian McCaffrey. Same with Jonathan Taylor, Josh Jacobs, and Derrick Henry and Bucky Irving. I'd honestly put Christian McCaffrey at the end of these running backs just because he does have the most upside, but I feel like his injury concern is definitely there. And I'd rather have these guys. I'd probably put Jonathan Taylor at the bottom, actually. If I had to rank these running backs, I'd put Achane, Jacobs, Henry, McCaffrey. Achane, Jacobs, Bucky, Derrick Henry, Christian McCaffrey, Jonathan Taylor. That's how I'd put these guys. Drake London at 19. I feel like I do really like this. He's the only alpha receiver in that offense. I think that he'll be still good this year. I'm fine with picking him in the 2nd round this year. Breece Hall at pick 20. I think that's fair. Offense isn't supposed to be amazing. Brock Bowers and Trey McBride together. A lot of people will say, like, okay, Trey McBride is not on the same level as Brock Bowers. Brock Bowers was so much better. You forget that Trey McBride had 2 touchdowns last year, coming in the last 2 games of the season. Adding, even if he has like a 5 touchdown season, that puts him up to like 260, 270 points, and that puts him above Brock Bowers. I really like Trey McBride being here with Brock Bowers. Literally, it's just the red zone usage just wasn't there for Trey McBride this year, and I feel like he's going to get a lot more of that. He can't score 0 touchdowns in 16 games again. You'll see the touchdowns catch up. Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson at 23 and 24. I like this. I think that picking him at the beginning of the third, these two are easily the best 2 quarterbacks in the league, and I think that should be fine getting up there. Also good with Jaden Daniels and Jalen Hurts is the way places that they are. These 4 are the alpha 4 quarterbacks that you're going to want in this league. If you're going to go quarterback heavy, you have to get one of these 4 guys. Over here, Chris Godwin, Alvin Kamara, and Xavier Worthy at 25, 26, 27. It might be a little bit high for the receivers here. Am I really going to be confident in Chris Godwin and Xavier Worthy over guys like Devontae Adams, DJ Moore, T. Higgins, Lab McConkey, Terry McLaurin, and Tyreek Hill? I don't think so. I think that Xavier Worthy at 27 is especially high when you consider Rashee Rice coming back. I'm a big Xavier Worthy guy. I have him in Dynasty. I think he's going to be really good this year. But am I taking him in the middle of the 3rd round in a 10-team league? Probably not. Kamara, I'm fine with here. The receiving upside always makes him like a top 10 back. And Chris Godwin, maybe I'd put him below some of these guys just because of the injury concern. But I think that this is a fair spot for him. Devontae Adams and DJ Moore. Once again, kind of fine with these 2 being together. DJ Moore's not going to be on an amazing offense once again. And honestly, they're probably going to go through whatever running back they get in the draft. Devontae Adams with Stafford at quarterback. Pick 30 seems kind of fair. Kyren Williams. I feel like Kyren Williams, Joe Mixon, and James Cook are a little bit low. If I'm getting them in like the middle of the 3rd round, I'm super happy. Especially if I get Kyren Williams in the middle of the 3rd round. I mean, like, I'm super happy with getting any of these guys. As well as, I think that all of these, pick 32 to 37, these guys have so much upside. They're all in relatively decent offenses and had really good ends of the seasons last year. Even Terry McLaurin and Tyreek Hill, you can go down. This, I feel like, is where drafts are going to be made. You have to hit on one of these guys because I feel like they're super underrated, especially because, I mean, you look it up here. You got the top-end talent. These guys could be top-end talent, too. People forget that Joe Mixon was averaging 20 points a game for most of the season. He kind of fell off in the end, but that's fine. Kenneth Walker, that is way too high for Kenneth Walker at 41. He's always hurt. And, Zach Charbonnet literally is probably going to be a 50-50 back this year. All right, now here is where it gets crazy. JSN and Garrett Wilson at 43-44. I am pressing the button on them every single time. Getting Garrett Wilson in the 4th round when he's going to be the alpha receiver on this team who now has Justin Fields, I am taking that any day of the week. I know that we've always been talking about, Garrett Wilson's upside. We've seen his upside. He has been one of those teams with absolutely abysmal quarterback play and abysmal, like, just team chemistry in general. I mean, he has so much talent. Look at him. When he gets targets, he catches over 50% of them in like every single game. Like, you never have those games where it's just like 1 for 8 for 7 yards. Unless he gets 1 for 2 for 7 yards. He needs the targets, and I feel like Justin Fields is going to give him the targets. And without Devontae Adams on the playing field, I feel like he's going to shine. So, I really like him at this position. I'm actually going to cue the players I like at each position. So, Jahmyr Gibbs and Saquon Barkley I like over here. Malik Neighbors, too, at this ADP. Once again, Bucky Irving, Devon Achane. I like Drake London. Trey McBride. The quarterbacks. I don't like any of these guys as much. And then pretty much like everybody in this spots. Garrett Wilson. And then JSN, I mean, they have Cooper Kupp. I don't mind him being at 43, but I think that he broke out last year, and he can easily be better than some of the... I think that he could be better than DJ Moore by a long shot, so I'm also going to queue him up. Mike Evans, Mr. Consistency. I feel like he should probably go over Chris Godwin just because of the injury and because he's always going to have 1,000 yards. Zay Flowers and Marvin Harrison Jr. I like Marvin Harrison Jr. here, maybe a little bit too high, but I think that end of 4th, beginning of 5th round is a perfect spot for him. Chase Brown at 50 is absolutely criminal. I mean, look at what this guy did at the end of the season. People look at him and he's like, oh, he only scored 255 points. The best running back scored a lot more. Look at what he did at the end of the season. He didn't have a game under 10 fantasy points since week 8. He was a really, really good running back. And at pick 50, I am pressing the button on him unless the Cincinnati Bengals draft another running back. You know, any running back in the Cincinnati offense is going to absolutely feed. Cortland Sutton, I like at this ADP. DK Metcalf at 55. I'm taking a risk on him, especially if the Steelers get Aaron Rodgers. I'm taking a risk on him. I think he's got to be pretty good. Devonta Smith here at 57. I like him at this ADP as well. JMO at 61. Sam Laporta at 62. I like him as a sleeper tight end option. I feel like that he could be good. Rashee Rice at 65 is my... I think that this is probably going to be the craziest upside in the video. The best upside in this video. Look at what he did before he got hurt. 17, 18, 29. He was going crazy at the beginning of the year. He has Patrick Mahomes as a quarterback. Now they have Xavier Worthy, so he's going to be even more open because people are going to be guarding Xavier Worthy a lot because of the deep ball. Rashee Rice can be that route runner. The Chiefs wide receiver core is honestly, I really like this Chiefs wide receiver core. You have Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy as your alphas. Kelsey can just be there. He kind of is a warm body to throw to. And then, you know, Rashee Rice is the route runner. Xavier Worthy's down deep. And you have Patrick Mahomes. That's all you freaking need. So, Rashee Rice at this spot, I am 100% taking. George Pickens, I kind of like him at this spot as well. Same with Calvin Ridley with Cam Ward. I like taking a risk on him, especially with a new situation rookie quarterback. Jacoby Myers, criminally underrated as always. Khalil Shakir at 67. I also like him a decent bit. Who else do we got? Travis Kelce at 73. If I can get Kelce in the 7th round, yes. Did he play amazing this year? Probably not. Is this going to be his last year? Probably. Do I think that he's going to go out swinging? Absolutely. So I'm probably taking him right here. Same thing with Cooper Kupp. I like this spot. Baker being drafted along Brock Purdy and Patrick Mahomes, I do like as well. What is it? What else do we have? Juwan Jennings and Stephon Diggs in the 7th and 8th round, I'd also like. Who else we got? Keon Coleman is okay. Evan Ingram I love as a tight end prospect. Jordan Mason maybe a little bit. Who else? Now we can just kind of get into the guys who are just like, you might... Fields and the Jets I like as a sleeper pick at the later rounds. Maybe Ricky Pearsall. I feel like he can do well. Marvin Mims, Cedric Tillman. Depending on who the Browns get at quarterback. If the Browns stick with Kenny Pickett, I don't really like it as much. Who else? It's not too many other guys that I like here. I mean, yeah, we just keep going down. DeAndre Hopkins, Devin Singletary, Rico Dowdle, Kayshon Boutte, I like. Who else? Pat Freiermuth's a good option at this. Then you have defense and kickers. Braylon Allen in case what's his face? Breece Hall gets hurt. Brenton Strange, I also really like him as a tight end prospect. I mean, he was really good last year when Evan Ingram was injured, and now he's going to have a spot to be the top dog. And then Trevor Lawrence and CJ Stroud are criminally underrated. 199 and 200. If I'm taking CJ Stroud with pick 200 in the draft, I am easily taking him. I know he had a disappointing season last year, sophomore slump, but I still like what I see from him. And overall, I think that, you know, him and Trevor Lawrence still have a lot that they can do in this league. So, those are my takes on the first ESPN draft. Now, let's just have a little bit of fun. Let's unpause this, and let's just do our mock draft. So, number 1 overall pick. Now, the real question is, who do I think deserves to be the number 1 pick? I like Ja'Marr Chase at number 1. He was the best wide receiver last year. However, for me, there is nobody else that I would like to take at number 1 than Jahmyr Gibbs. I think that Jahmyr Gibbs is primed for an unbelievable... I think that he could even get over 2,000 scrimmage yards. I think that he is one of the best prospects in the NFL, in the mock drafts this year. Malik Neighbors fell a little bit far, but I think that if I get him right here, absolute steal. I really like him at that position, even at number 1. And I don't trust Ja'Marr Chase as much just because the Bengals offense isn't as amazing. So, who do I pick here? So, I could go quarterback. I always like going quarterback early, but my next pick is going to be at 39. So, I'm going to miss out on this entire area right here. So, honestly, hang on. I'll pause the draft real quick. So, if I'm picking draft picks this year, I want to get in this area. So honestly, I want to be at about pick around 7, 8, or 9 about, so that I can pick a guy like, oh my god, Ja'Marr Chase fell. So I could pick a guy like maybe like Malik Neighbors and then Devon Achane, or like maybe even Puka Nacua falls. But honestly, guys at the top of the board, I love Jahmyr Gibbs. Saquon's going to be good. Puka and Justin Jefferson. But honestly, based on this 3rd round, the value you can get in there, I'm probably going to be targeting later round picks unless they change this. So, let's resume. Okay, so, I like Drake London here. Getting a receiver on the board is nice. Getting that alpha number 1. Also getting an alpha tight end, I do like. So, it depends. I'm going to get a wide receiver. I think I'm definitely going to go Drake London as my alpha number 1. Now, the real question is, do I want a tight end or do I want a quarterback? Now, I think I'm going to go with the tight end. And I'm going to go with Brock Bowers. I love Trey McBride here. However, if Brock Bowers is on the board over Trey McBride, I'm still going to do it based on the fact that the Raiders team was absolutely awful this year. And Brock Bowers still ate up targets and ate up crazy, stats. So I'm going to keep him around, and I still pick him over Trey McBride, but putting Trey McBride and Brock Bowers on the same tier is really, really something I like. Okay, so next position here. The first guy I'm definitely going to be taking is Garrett Wilson. Once again, I really, really like Garrett Wilson at this position here. Running backs are getting a little bit iffy. This is probably a good draft to go running back heavy, or a good year to go running back heavy. And if you don't go running back heavy, it's really good idea to go hero RB, because we went Jahmyr Gibbs, don't really have too much else. The next player I'm going to pick is Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill had a really bad season last year, but I feel like at this, when he's a guy who can easily average 20 fantasy points a game when he gets on his, when he gets his stride. I think that there's no way I could be passing him up here. So, overall, I'm pretty happy taking Tyreek Hill as my flex player. I mean, Drake London, Garrett Wilson, Tyreek Hill, unbelievable trio of players right here. Next guy I'm going to be taking, I think, is also an easy one. I am going to go with Rashee Rice, just because, I think he's criminally underrated once again. And the last player I'm going to be going with is, I'm going to be reaching a little bit on a quarterback. Who do I want to go with this year? I'm going to go with Patrick Mahomes. A lot of people don't like Patrick Mahomes in fantasy. I mean, he was bad last year. I think he's going to be out for an absolute revenge tour this year. He's pissed about you losing the Super Bowl. I drafted Patrick Mahomes in his MVP year, and I think that this is the next time that we're going to be seeing Patrick Mahomes going absolutely crazy. So, in this draft, it looks like we are going with hero RB strategy. So I think the next couple rounds is going to be just a butt ton of running backs. And it looks like we're going to get one of these guys. Maybe not. Oh, maybe not. All right, we lost them all. Great. Dude, do we go another receiver here? I do like Juwan Jennings or Stephon Diggs. No, we need a running back. So we're going to go with Brian Robinson Jr. He's going to be the first guy we're going to be going with. And honestly, the second guy we're going to be going with, really big bust last year. I think if the Jags offense really gets a little bit better, he could do even better than he did even better than he did 2 years ago. I am going to go Travis. Do I go Travis Etienne? No. Maybe I go Tank Bigsby. He's not amazing. I don't know who to go with. I'm just going to go with Diggs because, he's the alpha receiver on New England Patriots. I do like him in I think what was this? The 9th round, getting a number 1 wide receiver for one of the league's best up-and-coming quarterbacks. I'm super cool with taking him here. But now we really need to just hammer some running backs. So, I think I know a couple of guys I'm going to take. I will be targeting a lot of rookies, but overall, I don't think I'm going to be trying. There aren't rookies here anyway, so I'm just going to be drafting them kind of like how I'm going to be doing it. The first one is Jordan Mason, backup running back to Aaron Jones, usually injured. I think that Jordan Mason could be a great stash, as well as the best handcuff in the NFL, Zach Charbonnet. Kenneth Walker is always hurt, literally always hurt. There's a very decent shot that you can get a season-ending injury from him, and then he becomes one of the best running backs in the league. Now we're going to be going with a couple other guys. Let's see. Trey Benson could fall. That'd be great. Nope. Not Trey Benson. Okay. Let's see. I think the first thing I'm going to do, we do have Stephon Diggs. In case Patrick Mahomes gets injured or doesn't work out, I am going to take Drake May just to pair him up with Stephon Diggs. Get that backup quarterback. If you draft a guy like Josh Allen or Jalen Hurts or Jaden Daniels, don't draft another quarterback, please. Just let them ride, and then once you need him for a bye week or an injury, then you pick someone up off waivers. But if you're a guy of Patrick Mahomes, I'm gonna take Marvin Mims, but I'm gonna explain that later. If you take a guy like Patrick Mahomes, in the middle rounds, you're gonna want to take a quarterback maybe just in case he doesn't pan out like he did last year. But Marvin Mims, once again, wide receiver 2 for one of the league's best up-and-coming quarterbacks. Courtland Sutton also is not the most healthy person in the world. I feel like also, he could, what's the word for it? Courtland Sutton, if he goes down, Mims slots into the 1 and becomes a really, really good fantasy option. Who do I take now? You can go Mike Williams back on the Chargers, Darnell Mooney. I am going to go Darnell Mooney. He did fall off a little bit at the end of the year, but I mean, look at his stats as well. He had some big games. I think that Darnell Mooney's a great stash if you need him. And then we're going to grab a little bit high for him. Let's not grab Braylon Allen. We can definitely wait a couple rounds for him. I am going to grab Rico Dowdle. So now all we have to do is draft defense and special teams, which honestly those don't matter as much. But Rico Dowdle, once again, one of the premier handcuffs in this league. He was good on Dallas last year, not amazing, which is why he didn't get a starting running back deal. But if Chuba Hubbard goes down, Rico Dowdle is going to get a full workload, and I am super cool with keeping him on my bench for that time that it happens. So, for me, I like to draft kickers over defense. And that's because kickers are a lot more consistent. And let me pause the draft real quick. If we look at the best defenses in the league, right? The Broncos defense was number 1 overall. However, let's look at their lows. -3 points, 2 points, 2 points, 3 points. They had really, really good games, but they also had really, really bad games. And they had 166 fantasy points in total. Now, let's look at the number 1 kicker from the league last year, who I believe was Chris Boswell, who had 188 points, and whose lows, you had a couple of 4-point games, but didn't go under 4 points once. And so I feel like kickers are a lot more consistent as well, because you're not going to be starting Broncos defense every week. If you're playing the Chiefs, whenever you're playing the Chiefs, you are not going to start Broncos defense. But if I'm playing the Chiefs, I'm still starting Chris Boswell or whoever the number one kicker in the league is. Which is why I like taking kickers first, because I can keep them for the entire year. I usually like taking kickers whose team scores a lot of points. So I think I'm going to take Jake Bates. Lions kicker, always scores a ton of points. He was a top 5 kicker this year. And then defense, doesn't really matter. I'll go whoever's the best week 1 matchup. Vikings, oh my gosh, look at them. They're playing the Cleveland Browns. I'm going to take the Vikings defense. Yeah, but overall, kickers over defense, and that's the end of the mock draft. I do really like it. I think ESPN's probably going to give me a grade of like C or D or something, just because I did reach a lot, like on Jahmyr Gibbs, Drake London. I like having Brock Bowers as well, Garrett Wilson. Having a receiver core of Drake London, Garrett Wilson, and Tyreek Hill, and Rashee Rice is scary as hell. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Once again, please like and subscribe if you did find this video enjoyable, and I'll see you guys in the next video.